You guys wanted me to make a tier list, so we are going to get after it. Where does your spec fall on Venruki's tier list? We've got so many different choices here. I'm going to be putting all of the different specializations between S and D tier. Wait, this doesn't include Evoker. All right, guys. So anyways, we are going to do a Venruki tier list for DPS specializations. I played a bunch of solo shuffle on the beta, and I can tell you where I think the different classes rank in terms of their viability. So I'm going to be looking at classes overall in terms of their kit. So their consistent damage, their burst damage, their defense, their offense, all that good stuff. And we're going to make this a quick one. I don't want to waste your guys' time. I know you just want to see where your class falls. So we're going to be going through this very quick. I'm going to actually ignore the tank specializations as well as the healing specializations. Don't care. So we'll go through in no particular order. We'll start in the bottom right. Okay, so we'll start in the bottom right, and yeah, it'll be good. So Fury Warrior. Fury Warrior is one of those specializations, and I think what's going on right now, guys, is there's a lot of these specs that people don't really play on the beta, right? And yeah, there's a lot of these specs that people don't really play on the beta. To me, it seems like Fury Warriors do a really, really high amount of damage. Their survivability is overall pretty solid. You know, they have that really powerful mortal wounds effect. They definitely seem decent. I wouldn't say they're S tier, but I would put them in a either low A or high B. So you can go between a low A or high B. For me, I'm going to go high B. Arms Warrior. I haven't seen an Arms Warrior really perform yet, so most of the warriors that I see are playing Fury. So I'm going to go ahead and put Arms slightly below. Okay? So Arms is going to go slightly below Fury. And like I said, for some of these specs, I don't have a ton of data on, but it seems like people aren't super happy with how Arms is. So I would say it's either high D or low C, just from what I've heard, popular opinion. Okay. Now we get into the really OP specs, Warlocks. Let's just get into the nitty gritty. Destro, A tier, Demo, S tier, Affliction, S tier. And honestly, you could do all three S tier in my opinion. I think Warlocks are just completely... And every time there's a Warlock in the game, I lose every round to them, pretty much. So I will put Destro A tier because, yeah. But anyways, the other specs, they seem really, really crazy. Their defense, their offense, you know, their team utility, their peels, everything about them is just absolutely cracked. Warlocks, a great class. Both Elemental Shaman and Enhancement Shaman seem okay. I would say their defense is, yeah, you know what? It is what it is. Shamans don't necessarily, they're not notorious for having the best defense outside of, like, you know, Wrath of the Lich King. But yeah, it's a class. They're very explosive. Their main strength, I would say, is just how much burst damage that they can do. I don't really feel that comfortable putting them at A tier, but I feel like both specs are kind of in like that B tier range where it can work. But I haven't seen any Shaman like really pop off, but they always do pretty well. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward. The Outlaw Rogue. The Outlaw Rogue is another one of those things where it's just like, I think rogues in general, at least from what I've seen, they can actually die this expansion, which is great. You know, they were pretty much immortal throughout Shadowlands. So now all three rogue specializations, you know, they're rogues. They have a lot of CC, they have sap, they have blind, they have kidney shot. They have a lot of tools to kind of close out games. Which is great. And normally when I play with like an assassination rogue, they put out a lot of pressure, and the fact that they have like that really powerful shiv to reduce healing is strong. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Mutilated A tier, and because these specs are a little bit more setup based and I feel like it can be hard to get those setups, I'm gonna put Subtlety Rogue and Outlaw at B tier. Okay, now moving on to Shadow Priest. Completely overpowered. Insane instant damage, insane defense, really good team utility, really good offensive crowd control. They have healing reduction. They have everything you want. It's an S tier immediately. Okay? It's an S tier immediately. Retribution Paladins. Now, Retribution Paladins is a sneaky one. All the Ret Paladins, like, here's the thing about Ret Paladins, guys, is they all hide in the shadows, right? During all the betas, they hide in the shadows. They're lurking. They don't want you to know. They all say, oh, I'm a Ret Paladin. I can't get to my target. Well, you know what? Even if you can't get to your target, you're still one-shotting from range. So Ret Paladins, not D tier, not C tier, not B tier. They are minimum A tier. I would almost feel confident putting them in S tier from what I've seen. but we'll put them at a high A for now, okay? A high A. But I think it could be S. Ret Paladins are always like, they always just pretend that they suck, and then they're overpowered. So, yeah, Ret Paladins, absolutely insane. We're putting them at A. Windwalker Monk, obviously a spec that I play, so not so good. We're going to need some buffs, way too squishy. You kind of die instantly. Your damage is low, so we'll put Windwalker at D tier. I'm just joking, guys. So the one thing about Windwalker Monk is you're very squishy, but you have a lot of tools to survive. You have really good kiting, and I think Windwalker Monks are going to be a playmaker. From my experience, I always feel like I'm owning on my monk, so we'll go A tier on the Windwalker Monk, okay? Next up, Frost Mage. I've been really enjoying Frost Mage. I've gone through a lot of different iterations of my build, and you know what? I don't really feel confident putting myself at A tier, because I do think Arcane overall is better than Frost, but I wouldn't say Frost is lower than B. Like, I feel very B tier-ish on my Frost Mage. Like, it feels like I can win games. I'm not completely useless, so I would put them a bit higher. I'm looking at Arcane. Arcane is borderline S tier. The one thing about Arcane Mage is it can die. So it does have really good mobility, but it doesn't just passively live like Shadow Priest and Affliction and Demo Warlock, where you're just immune to death. But Arcane has a lot going for it. I would say it's a very high A tier. Okay. Next up, we have Fire Mage, C tier. Basically, Arcane and Frost stole everything good about Fire Mage. You have the Dragon's Breath, you have the Blast Wave. Everything good, a Ring of Fire. Everything good that Fire Mage had, Frost and Arcane just stole. And I don't feel like Fire got anything to compensate. And they also, I think a big problem with Fire right now is your Fire Blast spreads Ignite to polymorphs, and your Combustion is dispellable, which just feels horrible. Because Fire Mage is completely 100% designed around Combustion, right? And in PvP, when Combustion gets dispelled, it's just terrible. And Frost had this problem. Arcane had this problem. I might even feel like, I don't really know. I think Fire might even be D tier. I would say it's like high D, low C. Something's got to be D tier, and I think I'm going to put Fire there. Like, I really don't think it's good. I swear. Hunters, I have no idea. I don't know anything about Hunters. I'm not going to pretend that I do. I'm not going to say that they suck. I'm not going to say that they're amazing. I don't normally lose to Hunters. We're just going to go with whatever the chat says. So the chat, you guys are saying Survival's A tier. Sure, we'll put Survival A tier. Where are we putting Mark's Hunter? Mark's Hunter is D tier. I believe it. What about BM? BM is A/B. Okay, we'll put this here. So, I just remembered. My brain unlocked a little bit. I have fought Survival Hunters, and they seem really good. So, Survival Hunter is another one of those specs. Really high consistent damage, good burst damage, good CC. They basically have all the tools you kind of want. BM Hunters are just, I don't even know, man. They are what they are. But we'll put them at B tier. And if Mark sucks, then they'll be D for now. But maybe they're... I'm not confident in saying that they're as bad as Fire Mages, but we'll put them there for now with a little asterisk next to the Mark's Hunter, okay? Okay. Now, moving forward, we have a few DPS specializations left. We have the brand new Devastation Evoker, and this is one that I've played quite a bit on Carlington. I put in probably hundreds of games of Solo Shuffle at this point. I think some nice things about Devastation is people don't really know what you do, right? Like, nobody knows what's going on when you fight a Devastation Evoker, so you have like the element of surprise. You have a really, really big one-shot with your Dragon Rage and turn the, what is it called? Like, turn the tail or turn the tide, something like that, where you can basically palm pyro their whole team in a breath in front of you. So you have really, really high burst. Your consistent damage is okay. Like, I feel like they suffer some of the same problems as like other specs where your consistent damage is okay. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't feel like Devastation Evoker is better than Frost Mage. And it might be because I'm better at Frost than Devastation, but I feel like Devastation, outside of your one-shot, like, you don't have the most CC. You do have some cool team utility, but I don't feel confident putting it better than Frost Mage, and I wouldn't, at least in my experience so far. So I would say it's a solid B tier. It's a good option. It's a fun class, but I wouldn't say that it's like, I don't think it really carries matches from what I've seen. Frosty K, I saw Mez playing it. It looked really solid when he was playing it. I'd say it's probably a B tier, Unholy Death Knight, S tier. I think Unholy Death Knight just is another one of those specializations that is just passively immune to taking damage. Which in general, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like classes that just can't die. He said Frost is better than Unholy. All right, well, Mez actually knows more than me. So if he says Frost is better than Unholy, maybe this is S tier. Maybe they're both A tier. Maybe I don't really know, but I guess we'll put them both at A tier. I really don't think it's C tier. We're having a bit of a debate here in the stream where they're saying Death Knights are C tier, but I don't think that's true at all. I think Death Knights they're strong. Like, their damage seems high and they just don't die. They just survive. So, yeah, I'm getting word from the chat right now that they both seem about S/A tier. So, just because I'm not 100% confident in it, I'm going to put them both at A tier, but I think Death Knights in general are very strong right now. And Death Knights, similar to Ret Paladins, always try to pretend that they suck when they're OP. It's just one of those things, you know? All the DK mains are just, yeah, total. They're just like Ret Paladins. They always try to pretend that they're not good, but we all know the truth. So I'm pretty confident with this so far. Pharaoh Druids seem really good. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Their damage is completely outrageous. And actually, on the beta, the first spec to get 2400, I think, was actually a Pharaoh Druid. So I would say they're A+ or S tier. Like, they're very strong. They do a lot of damage. They have a lot of crowd control. They're low S tier, people are saying. I would put them up there in S tier, though. Snuppy just absolutely destroying. And I wouldn't say that it's easy to get 2400. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's easy to get 2400 right now in Solo Shuffle, and he managed to do it. So Pharaoh Druids is definitely up there. Now, and next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Balanced Druid. Now, Balanced Druid, it seems solid. I would say it has pretty good damage. It's got pretty good crowd control. I've seen a lot of Balanced Druids actually do really well on it. So, yeah, I would say your damage is like, it's okay. But they do have a decent amount of crowd control, and I'd say they're still relatively durable. Would I put Boomkin lower than Frost Mage? I don't think so. Would I put it lower than Ellie Shaman? I don't think so. I feel like a B tier is... Yeah, I feel like a B tier is pretty... Yeah, I think it's fine. I think B tier is good for the Balanced Druid. I'm thinking, yeah. I think a lot of these like casters that just like kind of like do it, just attack, or like they're very setup based, it can be a struggle, but I do like Cyclone. Like, Cyclone is a really powerful tool. Your teammate isn't going to break Cyclone like Polymorph, you know? If you get like a nice Cyclone on the healer, that's not going to break like some of those other crowd controls. So you really, I feel like, have a solid foundation to make some plays. So even though I'm putting Boomkin B tier, it could very well be like a high C, low B for now. Okay, so it's another one of those, like, it's kind of on the line, but we're going to put it in the B territory. That leaves us just a few more specializations. Actually, one more specialization, the Havoc Demon Hunter. If there was a tier above S, they would be there. So we're actually going to move this to number 1 position, because the Havoc Demon Hunter, in my opinion, is the most overpowered spec in the entire game. You do unreal damage. You literally can't die. You have a bunch of instants CC. You have a ton of stuns. You have a bunch of bursts. You have really high consistent damage. They're completely overpowered. They're completely overpowered. So Havoc Demon Hunter is S+. They are the winners, and the biggest losers, I would say, are Fire Mage and Marks Hunter. But that doesn't mean that they can't get buffed. So if you guys like the Fire Mage, you guys like the Marks Hunter, don't totally give up hope. But in terms of the beta, I would say this is like a pretty decent estimation. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I feel like a lot of these B tier specs and A tier specs, they're on the cusp. Like, I think one of the things that makes the S tier is that they can't die. A lot of them, like Demon Hunters can't die, Warlocks can't die, Shadow Priests rarely ever die. Like, Shadow Priests can die, but man, it's not easy. And I feel like they're particularly immortal against casters. Like, maybe if you get a solo shuffle lobby where you're getting run down by like Windwalker Warrior or Windwalker Demon Hunter, like you're having a rough time. But everyone is. Like, let's be honest, everyone's having a rough time fighting that stuff. But against like casters and stuff, I feel like Shadow Priests are borderline immortal. So yeah, this is the current tier list that I have for you guys. Let me know your thoughts. Like, do you think I was way off with any of these? Do you think some of them should be higher? Do you think some of them should be lower? Like, what have your experiences been so far?